Yeah, my dear Aquarius, the Earth has continued its path, and we see now behind the Sun the constellation Scorpio. And of course the Moon as well has continued its path around the Earth, and we see behind it the constellation Aquarius. Now I place your card to the left because we're going to the new moon, and that gives these two cards the option to look at each other. If I place it here, right, they're back to back. And here there would be kind of a conversation if you can talk to a bird or to the person here in the boat, right? And so you can see the eye here in Hermann Händel's tarot. We see how the eye is in the center of the card, and we see almost here this door, this opening as an eye as well. Now what's interesting here is that the Taj Mahal that is up here like a castle in the air was actually built for a woman who died, and it's that memorial, it's that moment that we recognize there was a person in my life that was very important. And you are the hope, right? You are this little creature with the star that is seeing that actually after death there is a new cycle beginning, or also of course after transformation. And transformation is around us all the time. So Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, and Pluto is the planet of shadow and mysticism. And the interesting part here is that Pluto is recently in Capricorn, but next year it's going into Aquarius for 20 years. And so this is going to be interesting, right? How now Scorpio is talking to you through Pluto, which is going to be done in your sign for 20 years. You are ruled by Uranus, and Uranus is that new beginning, which is also connected with the Fool, right? So this, I want to start something, can come up in you, and you just act upon it. Scorpio is the 8th house of reincarnation, and you're the 11th house of friendships. And so here we can see also the colors, right? It's very cute. We have the pink and we have the violet in here. And so these cards are actually pretty beautiful together. For Scorpio, in the yoga position, I did Scorpio pose, bringing the feet above our head so that we can transform, so we can let go of the ego. And for you, I did side plank with the leg up. And so you have only one hand and one foot on the earth, and the rest is up in the air. And so this equilibrium, this balance, right, is then that stretching out in all directions, but also pushing yourself out of it, is then here creating the star. So just that you see that I also include the yoga and of course the chakra system here in the reading. Your court card is the King of Swords, and here in this deck, the Mystical Moment Tarot, you have a masculine and a feminine king, and so you can pick which one fits you rather, right? Are you rather this kind of personality, or of course the samurai? Now, if your birthday is between January 9th and February 7th, then of course this is your court card. If not, you can see in the description below, I have listed all the cards there. And so also the cards that I'm using, on which position, etc. On the position of the Judgment, which is also connected with Pluto, right? Pluto is here to bring you the mystical side. And the calling is always that moment where we feel deep within us something wants to be fulfilled, something wants to be lived. And so we're going to look at the Lifruma Healing Oracle. because here I also have the rune alphabet in it, and the rune alphabet is quite mystical. And I think this fits really well on the position of the last judgment or the call. You got Gifu, gift, generosity, the number 7. And it's clear you have a 7 in the 17. And when we calculate it together, we get the 8. And of course, the Scorpio is the 13. And when we calculate it together, we get the 4. So the 7, the success is guaranteed because you have the success in your card plus the 1 and only, which creates then the 8, the Earth star, right? And that's why you become the Earth star here on Earth. And I think the 7 is almost talking to you and letting you know what success does to you, because sometimes it can also bind us, right? And so when I put the 20 above, we get the 27. And when we calculate it together, we get the 9, which is the completion. So I'm going to read this card to you. Sacred Saxon cross stitch cast to mask the purging and passing of that line to this time. Merge moments, give thyself to new endeavors and fresh found friendships. Step, meet, soul, greet, balance the astral, align and shift. Generosity shines bright and fair, but stay aware, for every gift to emerge its reverse was birthed. Wow, stay aware, for every gift to emerge its reverse was birthed. And that's the duality, right? The crossing is the duality. The crossing is also the 10, which we can see really beautiful here in Hermann Handel. He used the Roman letters. And you see now that here is something letting you know that you are better to unite the duality so that you can actually come into the 7, that you can become then that 7th chakra, the crown chakra, that is also in your card. And you as well have the Roman letter here in this deck, right? And you can see here the 10, the 5, and the 2, which is quite interesting because all of a sudden you have 3 numbers here, not 2, right? And the 10, of course, is the Wheel of Fortune. The 5 is the Hierophant, and the 2 is the High Priestess. So it's really clear that the message for you is saying, well, allow to understand that numbers never lie. And the same here, we have a 10 and a 3, right? So the 1 is the Magician and the 3 is the Empress. And so calculated together, the 4, then the Emperor. But now you get the Wheel of Fortune and the Empress. And of course here you get also in the 7, the 10, the Wheel of Fortune. And so it creates immediately a whole new meaning. And so are you, right? The Wheel of Fortune and the Hierophant, the spiritual message, and the High Priestess. That's then the star. That's the new perspective on how we work with these energies. So back to the last reading. We had 2nd Libra Sun giving Aquarius Moon the light. And the message was 10 times 1. Know the powerful influence of Sun and Moon in your life's mission. Now, 10 times the 1. The 10 is here. The X is here, right? And so know that you have somehow the Wheel of Fortune in your life, that this is a gift, but this gift also brings the shadow side. And that's where we're gonna look into, because Scorpio is giving you the light for the moon. So we begin on the position of the Fool, which brings you the Two of Wands. And the interesting thing is that you are here to see now the crossing has a meaning. Crossings mean that we find a central point. If the two wands are just standing, then they're in itself not connected. But when we cross something, right, it connects in the center. And so you, which is connected with Uranus and the Fool as well, right, feel that there is something talking to you. There is a new beginning. There is something that is letting you bring the dualities together into the center and create here a union, right? Because the Two of Wands is connected with Mars in Aries. And Mars in Aries is like taking action. Taking action in a sense where you want to be generous, where you want to give, where you want to help, where you want to be there for people, right? Because the gift came up. But also remember, when we give and when we're there for others, it can also be misinterpreted, because we see it all the time, right? Like we do not understand sometimes when someone is just really purely good, that it comes from their heart that they're doing that. And the interesting thing with you is when we calculate all these numbers together, we get the 8, and the 8 is Leo. And Leo is that passion. Leo is the Two of Wands. There is an action, there is something talking to you, right, in the Wands, because you are the Swords. And of course, that's connected also with Leo. So here you have the Two of Wands, and we're going to see how we continue. Then on the position of the Magician comes here the water. And water is life, right? We see here in this circle, we see that life flourishes in this energy. You get the 61, which creates a 7. And so here you immediately have a 7-7 portal framing the two, right? And so it's clear that you have to connect to a higher purpose, to a higher call, because the Two of Wands and the 2 sevens are literally giving you the clarity. Unite in the center, then you find a common cause between here this 7 and the 7 of water. And so here we recognize that something is talking to you on an emotional level, because the one of the Magician, that inspiration that you get, right, that foolish idea to unite, to bring things together, to come to the center in action, is like here with the Magician, that inspiration then to bring love out to the people. And the one adding to the 61 is the 62, and there we get the 8 that is then connected with Leo, and or the strength, right, because Leo is the strength, and the infinite symbol, the symbol that is letting you know, well, everything is constantly turning and spinning and shifting. Now, the Magician is connected with Mercury, and Mercury brings you the language, brings you also in the mind the understanding of what emotions do to us, how much they hold us, sometimes even hostage. So I wanted to see what is the water telling you, and I picked from the Mother Peace Tarot a card, and up came the 3 of Wands. Now you have the 2 of Wands and the 3 of Wands. That's 5 of Wands. 5 of Wands is Jupiter in Leo, but the 3 of Wands here has to do with then Sun in Aries. And of course that's still far away, Sun in Aries, right? But here we have a mother showing her children how to be creative, how to play, how to be an inspiration, right? Because to be creative is inspiring. It's not inspiring others, but it's inspiring you. And out of that comes a natural inspiration that people are looking at you and are like, wow, this is really cool. Now we have the 8 and then the 3, which creates an 11. So you have then you as the house of friendships, right? And so friendships should be like this mother that is actually helping her children to be creative and to allow the creative spark to inspire all human beings. And so the water is letting you know, be creative, be in your emotional creativity fulfilled, and arrive at the 11, arrive at yourself, right? Because that's maybe Sun in Aries when then the new year begins in the month of March, April, right? The new year begins with Aries. You're gonna maybe feel that kind of emotional satisfaction, right? Through the 3 of Wands. But the 5 of Wands also see that when we have 5 Wands, sometimes then it can be also testing each other, right? Like we sometimes want to see, am I better than the other? So don't get into that game, right? Stay separate. Keep the 2 of Wands and see the emotion in between, and then keep the 3 of Wands separate as an energy. Don't put it into the 5 of Wands, which is Jupiter in Leo, right? And Jupiter is like, oh, look at me, I'm passionate and I can be bigger than you. No, I am bigger than you. I am more passionate, right? And so the fight begins. On the position of the High Priestess comes the last judgment, which is, of course, here the call, right? Brought the 10, and so we understand all of a sudden brought the 7, and so the 20 and the 7 again is a 9 here. But we also have a 2 here with the 20, so the 20 and the 2 is the 22. Now we have 22 major arcanas, right? And the number 22 is the Fool, is here the 2 of Wands. And so there's a 2, and there is a 2, and there is a 2 here. So 3 times 2 is letting you know, hey, you understand all of a sudden that this call is important. And of course, if we add the Magician to the water, to the 61, we get a 62, so we get another 2. But just understand that the 2 is the High Priestess, is the duality, and she puts herself in between the 2 curtains. And she allows herself to make an intuitive decision, a decision that makes you go forward, right? That makes you go expand. And you see all of a sudden that the water here becomes a vehicle of transportation, right? Because, I mean, the ship needs water so it can move forward. And you can see that here in the Hermetic Tarot, the last judgment is the spirit of the primal fire. And for some reason I see a ship here as well, right? You see this? It seems like it's a ship, but maybe it's not. But I see a ship, right? And so you are here with the 22 called to have a real look at this 2. 3 times 2 is, if you really want to empower yourself, then understand that you find in the creativity always that challenge, that when you create, you show who you really are, right? And sometimes we don't want to show that. But this mother did it in a way that the children learned to be playful with it. It's not like, oh, you must be creative. It's like, be creative, right? Allow your creativity to be an inspiration. Then, on the position of the Empress, we get the last judgment one more time. And calculated together, we get a 23, which is a 5, right? And so the 5 is coming up because we have here the 5, right? And so that was Jupiter in Leo. And so understand that you learning to really see now in the 2020 portal that the 7 that is coming, the 7 that is allowing you to see that your emotions are important, right? That this 7, the water, is important, is the true love, is the crown chakra. And so here, this gift that is given to you, right? The generosity shines bright and fair, but stay aware for every gift to emerge, its reverse was birthed. And so the 2020 portal here, the 2-2, right? And we have now here a 2, and then of course a 2 and a 2, 3 times the 2 in the cards that I picked. Of course, we also have a 2 here, right? But that's the position the card came up. And so right now, you have 3 times the 2, and of course with the water, if I add the magician to it, then I would have a 2 as well. But right now I leave it 3 times 2. So the 3 times 2 is empowering yourself and being creative and giving, but always be aware, right? That this awareness is something that is calling you to awaken, is calling you to really come into your full power. Then on the position of Scorpio, right? Scorpio, you get the Hanged Man. And the Hanged Man is as well now the 10 and the 2. And it's really interesting. All of a sudden, I do not read it anymore as a 12, as a 1 and a 2. Now I see it as a 10 and a 2. And here as well, I see it as a 10 and a 3. And those are those moments, right, where we recognize, oh my God, I'm starting to become more clear in what I'm looking at when I see these cards, right? And so the 12, of course, becomes a 3, and the 13 becomes a 4. And so we have masculine and feminine. And so here, these two are talking, right? The 7 is coming back up, so you have 3 times the 7, and you see that the masculine and the feminine king are talking here, and it's almost like Scorpio is wanting to tell you that, hey, have a look at when you in the pre-stage, right? Because the 12 is in front of Scorpio, and here we are connected with Neptune, and we see the symbol here. And Neptune is your dreams and your mind, right? And so this pre-stage, before the death, before the full transformation, is saying, well, dive into the water. Dive as deep into the water as you can, because the water is healing. The water is the 7. And so we get a 7 here with Scorpio and, of course, the Hanged Man, right? And so the message is clear. And the 10, the Wheel of Fortune plus the High Priestess, is bringing out of you now here a whole new energy. And I'm loving it, because I'm learning right now something completely new about the Hanged Man, and of course also about here the Scorpio, the Death card, right? Now in this deck, the Death card looks like this. And so when you hang upside down, when you allow yourself to let go into the full emotional satisfaction that you can give yourself, then new things can grow even out of something dead, right? The transformation is that you're creating a new body, and every 7 years a new body is formed. And so here the 7 is clearly talking to you. And of course we have on the position of Scorpio, right, the Sun, that is here giving you a perspective of how you want to show yourself to the people, right? It's your personality. It's this outer presence, the sun. It's the clarity, right? And so for some reason you're coming into a stage of like, I am realizing something quite profound and I can grow myself a new body and a new consciousness. On the position of the King of Swords. Now I'm going to put the masculine king first above. We see the Two of Swords. And the Two of Swords is connected with the constellation Moon in Libra. And so Libra is that balancing out. And of course, you see now that you have again a 2, right? And we have the 2 in here as well, of course, the High Priestess, right? But here you see the 2 of Wands and the 2 of Swords are both masculine. And I think that's maybe why I picked automatically the masculine king, because this is his kind of thing, right? He's the one that is thinking about how am I going to become peaceful in my mind. And he has a bird that is covering his right eye. So his right eye is the masculine eye. And the bird is giving him a perspective, a higher perspective, a spiritual perspective. And you see these 2 birds sitting here, and they both are talking. They both are duality, right? The good and the bad, the light and the dark. And it's all in your head, right? Because you have only one hole, so they can only go in one at the time. And so you have 1, 2, 3, 4 times the 2, the clear 2, right? And so you might as well now see this from a feminine perspective, because we also have the feminine side here, right? But the swords, which is connected with you, are masculine. And so she is actually picking up the stars. She is like, I want stars. I love stars, and I love the hope, and I love, right, to bring hope to the people. And so recognize this moment, right? Because the 11 and the 2, right? It's almost like the 11 is 2 ones. If I calculate it together, we get the 13. And the 13 then again is here, of course, Scorpio, right? Is that new body that you are growing, is because you hang yourself upside down, you let go, and you see here the 2 birds are flying and now they're landing here. It's very interesting, right? Because sometimes you can literally see how these cards are so talking and giving us the feeling like, oh my God, yeah, here they're flying and they're free and you're almost free, and then pop, here you're back in not being free, right? And so observe, right? Observe how you think. And don't get caught in that inner chatting of, you know, sometimes you're wrong, now I'm right, or you're right, I'm wrong. Then on the position of the star of Aquarius, what is Aquarius letting you know is here comes the King of Pentacles, and that's a Taurus. And the King of Pentacles is self-worth. And you can see how he's standing up here on his horns. And you recognize that he's up here the same way you are up there, right? And so the 17, which is the 8, and here the 2 creates a 10. And the 10 is the social status. So somehow you're climbing up in the social status. You want to show your self-worth. You want to show the world, hey, I have money, I am successful. Just be careful, right? Because you could also fall, and that's what it is, right? That we have to have wings. We have to have somehow a position that sees everything even more clear than he does. Because from your perspective, you higher up than him, right? And you see then the eagle's perspective or the bird's perspective, which is also here, the 2 birds. Here they are coming down. Here they're sitting and they're like, they're kind of like, you know, the typical how the birds are, right? But here they are flying and they're free, and this is the birth perspective, and that's what you have, right? You are here, this beautiful spirit, and you have the perspective, and see how you're standing here. But be careful, right? Don't allow money to define you. On the position now of the moon as the dream oracle, and the moon also, of course, being in your sign, right, comes here the hollow bone, the teachability. Now what's really interesting, look at you, you're standing here on the antler of this deer, right? And here comes the hollow bone, right? It's almost like, well, have a look. The 28 creates a 10. The 10 is the Wheel of Fortune. And you had the 10 right here with the King of Pentacles, right? You had the 10 and now you have the 10 again. So in a way, these are connected. And this is also, of course, a Scorpio energy, because we see the bones, right? So this deer is dead. But you're standing on the antlers, and so this is a direct connection now to have a look, a deeper look into your emotions and into your subconscious, because that's what the moon does, right? You also have the moon here, right? But the moon is here bringing you through Aquarius this message. This is what you feel. This is what you are connecting with, right? The self-worth, standing here on the antlers and having all that money. Now the moon is the moon, and the moon is the subconscious, is saying, well, you also gonna be here. Recognize that, notice that, because the 10 is coming. And so the 10 is the social status. That social status can come and go. And the 9 of the 18 of the moon, right, plus the 10 is the 19, is the sun, is that clarity. All of a sudden it makes sense, right, what you see and hear here. And so then calculated together, the 10 is left. Now, of course, I wanted to see, why is this coming up? Why are you getting the hollow bone and the teachability? Because you want to teach the people, hey, I stood up here, but I also can be here. And up came the 4 of Swords. And the 4 of Swords is really beautiful because it's connected with the constellation Jupiter in Libra. You had Moon in Libra here, right? The 2 of Swords. So then you get, with 4 more swords, 6 swords. And that's one of the most beautiful swords card, because it's connected with Mercury in Aquarius. And Mercury came the water through the Magician, because the Magician is connected with Mercury. There is something talking to you emotionally, really deep. And so listen to it, because you got the meditation, right? The meditation. And of course, Jupiter in Libra, which is that expansion, which you also got when we put these two together, right? You got the 5 of Wands, which is Jupiter in Leo, and Leo is your opposite sign. That's when you get your full moon. And so you have meditated, and you see how she's facing the hollow bone. She's not in the other direction. She's facing that part in you that is saying, well, I need to go out, right? It's almost like she sees this. She sees that you're standing up here. She sees that you are all rich and all climbed the ladder into the 10, the social status. But also she sees this. And so she is actually bringing to you then, through the 10 and the 4, the 14, which is then temperance, right? Always be in your equilibrium, right? And so temperance is Sagittarius, and that's the next reading in Sun in Sagittarius. So the 14 is a 5, and so you are seeing that it's connected with these two, right? The 5 that is talking here, and you are understanding all of a sudden, okay, something is really talking to me. then on the position of the Sun, which is in Scorpio, right? But the Sun is the clarity. You get this beautiful card, which is the number 13, which is Scorpio. The Sun is in Scorpio, so you get the 13. But this time you get the 1 and the 3, right? And the 1 is the Magician, and the 3 is the Empress, and the 19, right? You get the Magician and the Hermit. And so here then calculated together you get the 10, the Wheel of Fortune, the 10, and the 4 is 14, is Sagittarius. When the Sun is in Sagittarius, you're gonna see that you are happy where you are at, right? You're swinging here. You have now 1, 2, 3 birds, right? Here you had 2 birds. So there is this kind of like, well, in a relationship, we start to sometimes get stuck, right? In a relationship, we start to get stuck. And so let yourself hang upside down, right? See the 3 of Wands. The 3 is a group. The 3 is what is important because it's the Empress. The 3 is then the new one. And so here you are creating a 5, right? Through, of course, the 10 and the 4. And so you are understanding all of a sudden that everything has its destiny, everything has its moment. And so recognize this beautiful moment here, that the transformation that you went through here has happened, has begun, and you are living it now. Because I wanted to see why this card is coming up, and you got here the 4 of Wands, and the 4 of Wands is always connected with Venus in Aries. And Venus in Aries, you got already here Mars in Aries, you got Sun in Aries, and now you got Venus in Aries. You actually have the 2, the 3, and the 4. That's all Aries. And when I calculate them all together, I get a 9. And the 9 is the completion. The 9 is again that empowerment that you bringing always to yourself, right? By uniting deep within in the 7 or the 3 and the 4, the understanding that you are powerful, that you are connected, that you are within you have the Emperor and the Empress. And so the 4 of Wands are 4 women dancing because they have their period. And upside down, it's almost saying you are not yet ready to really be a leader, to really show your feminine side. Also that your sexuality is, because you are in this solitary moment here, your sexuality is not flowing. You are not allowing your sexuality to be free, to be liberated, right? And so you're gonna need to look into this a little deeper, right? So recognize that. That's all, right? And see that maybe you want to turn this around, right? And really dance, because you are feminine and you have the menstrual blood. And through the menstrual blood, it's like saying, okay, well, no child has been born, right? Because otherwise the blood wouldn't flow, right? Because then you would have a baby. And so there is a very interesting energy talking to you. It's almost like saying you are single, you don't have a child, but maybe you are wishing for a child, and you have 3 birds here, right? And of course, the 3 birds is always that then a mother, a father, and a child. Then on the position of the World comes the King of Wands, and that's Leo. And the World is connected with Saturn, and Saturn is, of course, the father, is the finger, is the border, is the lesson that you have learned. And now you are looking down at yourself, and you're taking that path into new adventures. You're creating a world for yourself, because the 21 is the 3 And here he is the 5th zodiac sign, right? And the 5th zodiac sign is joy and fun. And 3 and 5 is 8. And the 8 is Leo, is having the strength to live your life the way you want, right? Because that's also your number when we, of course, bring the 10 and the 2 together. When we bring the Wheel of Fortune and the 5, right, the joy maybe from Leo instead of the Hierophant, right, and of course the High Priestess together. And then you see, all of a sudden you're seeing, yes, you are ready to take this adventure, right, to take the path of joy, to take the path of, yes, I am wanting to enjoy myself, right, and bring into this world things that most people are having a hard time to bring into this world, because sometimes they think, these people who are always taking action, right? But you have 2 and 3 and 4, 9 wands, right? So this is a completion, and you are arriving in your inner completion now to take that path outward and enjoy yourself and be happy, right? And I think that's what's coming up here, right? With the muse of inspiration. Be an inspiration. Show the world what you have realized and what you have learned just simply here through Scorpio. Well, I hope I see you in the next reading, because the 14 came up. And always understand, of course, here there was a 9 as well, right? So the 9 of Wands, and here this 9 is clearly letting you know there is a completion, there is an ending, that Scorpio is bringing an end to something that you have now realized, right? That in your opposite sign lies the strength. Until then, I thank you so much for being with me. Namaste.